Hey guys, welcome to another episode of In the Garden with MBC. You're here in the garden at Noble Rot with me, Marc Boucher-Colbert, otherwise known as MBC. Today, you can see we've made some progress in the season. I no longer have my scarf and winter hat on, but it's a typical cloudy, gray spring day, still cool. We're still struggling to get any series of semblance of 60-degree days. We just can't seem to do it. So just continuing to focus on the cool weather crops up here at Noble Rot. Pea shoots, some lettuce under cover, some kale, that sort of thing. Today I want to show you some of my favorite tools. I primarily use all hand tools up here at Noble Rot. You can see I'm leaning on a bed right now. We have these 42-inch high beds. This is custom gardening. This is the Cadillac of gardening beds, 42 inches high. It's made out of steel for durability up here on the rooftop, but just lovely to be gardening at this height. When you have a raised bed, you don't really need to be messing with the soil too deeply. My school garden, of course, I'm using, where we garden in the soil, I'm using more long handle tools, shovels, digging forks, etc., etc. But up here, it's all about the hand tools, because I'm mainly just doing light surface preparation on the tops of these beds. So let's jump into it. I'm going to show you some of my favorite tools. Some are definitely gardening tools, others are not. And yet still they're effective. So let's go. Number one has definitely got to be this Japanese hand hoe. I believe it's called Nijirigama. I don't know what that means, unfortunately. It could be the name of a place. It could be something in Japanese. But this is a very versatile tool. It's very strong. The Japanese obviously are known for their metal work over the centuries, and they have an ability to just churn out really strong steel that can hold a good edge. Obviously in culinary realm, their knives are legendary as well. But I like this. You can see the hoe is at an interesting angle to the handle, so it allows you with a pull stroke to skim just under the surface of the soil. So here's the action. I'll hold it like this, and I just lightly drag it over the surface, and it's interrupting weeds as I go. It's just bringing them right to the surface, just cutting them off at the knees, so to speak. Weeds don't have knees. I think you know that. But anyway, just taking them out. And it's also, because of its strength, because of the strength of the blade, it's also good as a jab and pull to create holes for transplants. So a lot of times when I have my little soil plugs and I'm putting stuff in that I've grown in my grow room, I'll just jab, yank, pull, and push back in one swift motion. Almost like you've seen those tree planters. If you've seen those guys and gals up in British Columbia, they'll have a big sack of saplings, and they just have a special tool where they jab, yank, drop, fill. It's all one smooth motion. So you can get really going with this in the loose soil of a raised bed. Nijirigama, definitely a tool I would not be without. If I had to just have one tool at the Noble Rot, this would be it. Coming in at a surprising number two is this unlikely tool. This is a mud knife, I believe it's called, for drywall. When you seal the seams, or you close the seams, the gap between the seams of two pieces of drywall when they abut, you want to put this stuff called mud, this spackle, on there, and then this smooths it out. This thing is amazing. One of the things that it can do, first of all, it levels a bed. So if I've used the hand hoe to get rid of a bunch of weeds and taken out a bunch of stuff, it's kind of a mess. It's kind of a pockmarked mess. So this is beautiful for just leveling. It has another unanticipated effect, and I'm not sure why this exactly happens, but the blade catches all the light material, all the weeds, all the fibrous stuff, and has an action of collecting it, so that I can then just pull it all off in one ball or one bunch, and it really does a marvelous job of that. So it gets all the fibrous stuff out. So if I'm making little lines, which then this comes in handy for, I'll literally draw lines in the soil, and if I need them to be a little wider, I can go in at an angle, at a bevel, and create furrows for my seeds. This is very important for planting arugula, mustard greens. This is how we do it. Make a number of rows, just define them a little bit, and then go in and lay down the seeds there. I can plant them at whatever spacing that I want, but this is very handy for that. So for leveling, for picking up debris, and then for making furrows, extremely handy. I love this tool. So this is just a 12-inch mud knife. They come in different sizes, and I have some different sizes, but up here I have this 12-incher. Fits well. I tend to choke up on it like this and grab it by the blade, and then it's a fierce. Between these two, I'll take on anything with these two, right? And I'm ready for battle. I could just be satisfied with these two. Of course, I have like 10 more, but I got to show you those two. All right, I have the array of typical garden tools you'd expect to have a cultivator and a trowel. These are just particularly heavy duty. This one's Oxo. I like that brand. This one's Corona. These are both like heavy duty tools that aren't going anywhere. I've broken a bunch of trowels over the years, so it's worth investing in something really solid. So by solid, I mean, see, there's no welding joint really. It's all one piece. That's always a sign of a good tool. Anything from a rake down to a hand tool. When you have solid one-piece construction, this too, there's nothing plugged into wood. It's just one solid piece of metal with a rubber grip. Indestructible. This is going to last a lifetime. Smaller trowel. Sometimes you want a finer hole. This Oxo one has some beefy serrated edges here that are really useful. See that? If you got to cut through some roots, it's also useful for dividing plants too if you need that. And then I have a smaller, slimmer profile one. That's all the standard stuff. This is an interesting kind of a scoop trowel, also with the serrated edges. This is called the dirty little digger. It's kind of a soil scoop. It's also pretty useful. Okay, here's another favorite tool. This is the Cobra. I love this thing. This is one of my favorite tools. It's got a kind of a flat head. You can see the resemblance to a king cobra. Just again, a big, indestructible, beefy tool, good for loosening lower layers of soil. I use this a lot with kids because kids really can't break this thing. Kids have broken a lot of my tools. I do gardening at a school, and it's a great test to find out if a tool is durable or not. Give it to some kids. They're bound to whack it in ways you never predicted, and you'll find out which tools are really durable. This is a great one, the Cobra. Let's keep going here. I love this this is a takeoff of a Japanese sickle. I use it, a grass sickle. It's used for, cutting at the horizon, getting out grass. It also it's got a terrible serration on the edge there. I mean, terrible by fearsome. And it'll just cut through stuff. You can use it like a saw. I also like it as a weeding tool. If you use it as a weeding tool, you're going to lose some of the sharpness. So you may want to keep one for the grass and one for the ground. Or after it starts to dull a little bit, as a cutting tool, you can then send it into the soil. But I like dragging it through the soil. It interrupts weeds. I can kind of go below the surface too. It's not angled quite like the Japanese Nijiri Gama hoe, but it still does great work under the soil, just under the soil surface. All right, moving right along, I've got a couple of cutting tools. I really like these sheep shears. They're very handy when I need to cut twine and sometimes even for some small pruning. And then for heavier duty stuff, I've got Yale Parafelcos, great standard hand pruners, and a leather case. Let's see what else we got. Kind of winding up here. I like, again, not a standard garden tool. This is kind of a concrete float, right, for smoothing concrete. After I've gotten a smooth seed bed with my mud knife, then I'll come and lay down the seeds. Sometimes I'm broadcasting them, scattering them, and then I will tamp them down to form a solid connection with the soil and to kind of reduce airspace in the soil. I'm not really trying to compact the soil per se to a depth, but I am just trying to get good contact with the seeds and the moist soil so they germinate well. That's a nice, useful tool. I've got myself a good stainless steel scoop, very handy for fertilizers. Got what's called a dibble. This is kind of just like a metal finger, basically. When you don't want to ruin your fingers, you just stick this in the soil. Great for things like leeks or small plug transplants. You just want to make a little hole, go right on down. And then let's wrap it up with a strainer. I soak a lot of my seeds and pre-sprout them indoors, especially at the cool time of year. So today I'm going to be doing some carrots. I've got the carrots in some water overnight, and then I pour them through when I get on site, and then I will seed them. Sometimes I'll add a little dry coconut fiber to this to get them to not stick, and so I can spread them evenly. Anyway, this is kind of a wrap up of some of the hand tools that I use. Love to hear what some of your favorites are. To me, a good tool is worth its weight in gold. And again, when you find and start selecting tools of high quality, you know these things are going to be with you for life. So wishing you great gardening. I'm hoping that pretty soon that's going to turn into a sunny blue sky. But for now, we're stuck with gray. We're still going at it. Hopefully you're going at it wherever you are too. Good luck with your gardening. I'll see you next week in the garden with MBC.